Hey everybody, this is the online editor John, and I am pleased to be sitting here once again with publisher Bob Hickey and editor Bill Nichols, and this is our that is right, sixth sketch podcast. Be proud, because we are. And tonight, our podcast is going to be about branding. What is branding? I don't know, but Bob does, so we'll ask him.
Well, I think one thing we need to touch base on is the difference between branding and marketing. And
True.
we can talk about different ways that companies handle the concept of branding and marketing. Branding is, of course, getting yourself out there recognized. This podcast is part of Sketch Magazine's branding. It's part of getting, me, Bill, you, John,
Mm,
based as the core group of Sketch. Basically, we've put Sketch on our shoulders and we're going to carry it through. And this podcast is one step towards building that brand. So when you say Sketch, you don't only think about a magazine, but our goals by the end of the year is when you say Sketch, you think about the magazine, print, magazine digital, the website that's a resource site, and this podcast, which is a resource podcast. So building a brand, that's just one kind of brand.
right.
And then there's always branding yourself, Bill.
The branding yourself, that's just putting the persona that is you, what you want the public to recognize when you're at, say, conventions or on the internet or in the media or wherever. Uh, you want them to identify you with, well, you, the things that you are, the things that you do. There are a lot of different levels of that, but it's putting yourself out there, whether it's a nickname or your regular name, or I mean, some people go by, have pen names,
Right.
but it's marketing you in a way. For example, Bill Nichols, Comics Mentor,
Hmm.
putting that out there so that people can identify me with that. They also identify me with inking or editing or Skystorm or some of the other things that I've done. So I mean, it's comics in general, but Comics Mentor is something I usually put on most everything,
Right.
so that they have something to identify that. You know,
Well, I believe a lot of people miss out on branding because they go with these little cute names on their DeviantArts or on their Facebooks,
Right.
and you'll see me, and what I write's what I write, and that's what I say, and it's going to be either Robert W. Hickey or Robert Hickey. That's building that name back. It's I went ahead and reserved robertwhickey.com. As soon as I get a free moment, I'm going to build a site where I list everything that's I got going on. Between this podcast and Blue Line and Sketch and Skystorm, it's just be one site. So I say, hey, this is what's going on. But online, Robert W. Hickey, that's what I put out there. So I think a lot of people miss out on the possibility of building your name up. Now, if you want to sneak off and do something, that's fine, but you don't benefit from it. Of course, there's also some people who probably shouldn't put their name out there because they're negative, and
Yeah.
that's not helpful.
Yeah, that's
right?
very true. And I think a lot of people don't get the distinction between that you're branding your professional self
Right,
and not the real you.
right,
I mean, this is the you that you want people you do business with to see.
right.
These people don't care about, you just brush your teeth or whatever, whatever people put on social media things. So,
Right. Well, I know Facebook. I will put, just wrapped up podcast number 5 for Sketch Magazine, and I think I put something out. It's free. Here's our RSS feed. Now I might follow that with heading out to Clay's football game. It's raining. I give them a little bit
yeah,
of personal stuff so they feel like they're a part of our lives, because you
right.
it doesn't matter if you're who you are. If you enjoy a genre, if you enjoy a product, if you enjoy Twilight, a book, you enjoy that author, and a little bit of that author that you can get, um, if you really enjoy them, you want. I don't put minute details on Facebook or anything. I think I probably the most is where I sank the boat on vacation, you know. But that was funny. I even laughed, you know. You share a little bit with everybody. You get them involved a little bit in your life. They want to see what you create. And it's all or what you're doing. And it isn't always about the creator. It's you're a colorist, okay? And you're busting your tail and you're coloring. Okay, if Lisa's out there coloring, she lands a big gig with DC or something, I'm gonna go check out what she's doing over there. You know, because
Right.
I know Lisa and I want to follow what she's doing. You know, that's building. You know, that's Lisa building her name up. Bill, comic mentor.
That,
Please.
just insert this.
Okay.
That is Lisa Moore.
Yes. But yeah, there's all kinds of branding, and the difference between branding and marketing, at least in my belief, marketing is I have a new book and it's done, and I need to go out and create sales for it. I'm looking at numbers, money, how much income I can get off of it. That's marketing the product. I do lots of marketing with Blue Line. Okay, we do some branding with Blue Line, getting the name back out there. It's the originator of the art paper and stuff. But you really work on brands. You know, Sketch, we're really working on the brand, the name, not so much on the marketing. Here's issue 40, it's out. We're really working on just making Sketch one of the how-to areas for the comic book industry. So, and I think it's hard to balance. I don't think you have to balance the two. You're always going to be working on both, but you have to be aware what you do reflects on your brand. You want to always try to keep positive, keep moving forward.
So in that aspect, you know, use your real name, I think is what we're telling people, or use the name of the company when you're talking about your product.
Right.
But you know, if you want to be silly or stupid, or you know, talk about your ingrown toenail or whatever,
Right.
maybe that would be the time to use a cute nickname.
Yeah, it would be.
Or keep that information to yourself.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Some people don't have that gene anymore since so many people live online now.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? Wow. What you read on Facebook sometimes just blows me away. But there's a lot to brands. I mean, you look at the most popular brands, and you know, one thing that I really enjoy is the Star Wars. I mean, it is the largest brand out there. I mean, we were goofing today, and somewhere we read where I think it was on Comic Related, we read where George Lucas is suing some company because they used Jedi technology or something, you know. So we were goofing, and oh, this would make a great strip, and have us, you know, saying, hey, you know, I'm a Jedi. Oops, owe George a buck. And every time you say Jedi, you owe George a buck, you know, for the brand. So, but no, I understand him protecting his brand, his name. You can't have some company started up using the name Jedi in it. That terminology was created in Star Wars. That's his. And it's really crazy that a company thought that they could get away with that.
Yeah, and and unfortunately, people won't always make that distinction that it's not George Lucas connected.
Right.
You know, it was someone just borrowing his name or his whatever.
Right.
I think a lot of people don't get how frequently that things can go from one person to another.
Yes.
And, you know, end up what was quality with the old person may not be the same quality with that new person.
Right, right. Well, I know Rick McCullum. He drew a title. I published his own self-title called Ashley Dust, and we're getting ready to recollect it for him at Skystorm. He was doing some work for the Turtles guys, Eastman Laird.
Right.
He did a signing at one of my stores back when he was doing the turtle work, and I had put together a flyer with his logo on it, and I was passing out locally. Well, these guys, I don't know where they're located at, but they're Pennsylvania or somewhere. I don't know. They're ways out there. They were so meticulous about their brand, is that they had people track down every single thing that went on, and they got a hold of the flyer. They called Rick to verify he was going to do the signing. They called us to verify Rick would be doing the signing. And I was like, wow, that's crazy, you know? And Rick called me up. He's laughing and says, yeah, Turtle Guys just called me, you know. Make sure I was coming to your store. You know, this wasn't made up or anything. I'm like, this is nuts, man. But they really worked at keeping that brand. I mean, look what it's done for the guys.
Well,
It's
yeah.
amazing. I mean, I think they finally sold the whole thing to Disney. I think it was.
Oh,
Yes.
did they completely? I know one sold it to the
Well,
other,
Eastman
but
sold out to
yeah,
Laird, and then I believe Laird sold it all to Disney, and Laird still has some rights to publish something, but it isn't
right.
much. The main thing is Disney's now. I mean, Disney's going the world. Talking about a brand.
Yeah,
A brand bigger than Star Wars would be Disney.
yeah. It's actually kind of funny. One of my students at the middle school I
Hmm.
teach made a little cartoon about how Disney is owning everything
Really?
or going to own everything. Yeah, and I was like, wow, that's pretty bad because we've talked about that on my website several
Yeah.
times.
Yep, they're going to buy up the world.
Yeah, pretty
That's all
much.
right. But no, they're, brands. I mean, look at the Disney brand. Usually what they touch is gold. They know how
Hmm.
to, they had it on the flip side. They know how to market the brand. And I guess that's a thing we need to discuss too, is you do market your brand. You go out and you sell it. You sell your company or you sell it yourself. You're building upon that. So branding is very, very important. The looks that you put out there. It's sort of funny because I'm working on this new strip, and the artist had originally drawn 20 strips, and then we went back and we tweaked some of the characters, main characters, and got the final style sheets down. And I was like, we need to redraw these strips or at least tweak them. She's like, oh, no, no, we'll just start with that and move on. I'm like, no. What people see from the get-go sits in their mind, and it takes a long time for people coming and going whether they're going to like this or not. We want it launching as professional as possible. Plus, this strip represents me and her. And I don't want something half done or halfway finished out there representing us, so representing our brands, our
Right.
abilities. So she finally agreed. Okay, I get where you're going. And she took the strips, and we're going to be redrawing them tomorrow. But you've got to worry about what you represent out there and how you look.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't, especially people just kind of starting out, don't realize that yeah, it's interesting to see someone's process
Mm-hmm.
and how they go, through creating something, but if you show if your work is flawed in any way during that process,
Mm-hmm.
that's what's going to stick in people's brains.
Right.
If you put out a really bad image and then go back and tweak it and say, okay, well, this is the new
Mm-hmm.
image. Even that new image is going to be tainted by people's memories of the original image,
Right.
I think.
Well.
So, if you're first starting out, you have to really be kind of careful
Mm-hmm.
as to what you let out immediately. Now, when you're established, you can throw out all the sketchbooks and,
Right. Right.
scribblings you want, but
I think what you have to do is produce the best work, and I think we've talked about this, that you can at this
yeah.
moment. You produce the best, and that's where I was getting with the artist. These 20 strips, they're good, but what we just redesigned in these characters is 1,000 times better. And so we want to show when we go public with this our best work. So we need to
Mhm.
tweak these characters' looks in these strips. We need to make them look like this. The funny thing is, you're talking about branding and looks. I've got the PvP Online Awesome Collection. Man, Scott's first strips, wow, they're rough. And you
Yeah.
look at them now, and amazing is he just moved up into the Penny Arcade offices not too
Mhm.
long, a few months ago, and his artwork has like taken this next leap up. Really slick stuff. And I'm like, wow, this is cool because you can see his evolution and how things really artistically he picked up and it got
Yeah.
better and better and better. And you're always going to do that.
But yeah, I think you're very right. And what you were saying, probably with him moving into Penny Arcade, that gave him other people to play off of. Because I think in his case, especially, he's been doing it kind of in
Yeah.
a
Yep.
bubble, kind of by himself for so long. You don't really have those other artistic influences.
Right. And I know they're all friends up there, so they definitely
Yeah.
play off of each other. But I mean, Scott is one who's understands the concept of a brand, of a look.
Oh yeah.
and he's constantly building and making it better, and that's what you got to do, build and make it better. I think we need to sort of discuss, bring Bill back in, is how to
Well, yeah.
build your brand from the beginning. And all of us is doing it, no matter what we do. What we do out there reflects upon us. But what are ways to build a quote unquote brand? Whether it's just getting your name out there or your company's name out there. I mean, we're getting ready to do it with Skystorm once we get everything together. So how do you build that brand? What are early steps that you take or that you think of that we would take?
Well, to start, you sort of have to have an idea of who you are
Right.
and what you want to do. You start with that. You want to know what you're going to be, what you're shooting for, so that you have some sort of plan.
Mhm.
And then from there, from say you're at step 0,
Mhm.
that's it right there. Now you're going forward, and as you go forward, you're looking at message boards, forums, uh, your projects, whatever projects you're doing, what venues you're going to be at or in on the internet or at conventions. All of those things uh, tie into you.
Right.
So your brand is influenced by each one of those things, and in turn influenced by the people with whom you associate or the other people that you collaborate with and that kind of thing. So it is a process where you grow not only as a persona
Mhm.
or a brand, but as a person who is doing this, whether it's inking, penciling, creating your own webcomic. I was listening to Chuck's interview with Laura Inez earlier about the Dreamer, and I started to read the Dreamer from the beginning. And things start slowly, but you build. You build with the quality of your work. That's another thing. What you were talking about,
Right.
how you look from the get-go, what you want to project, the image that you put out there. Um, that is, part of your brand.
Right.
Part of it is you. Part of it is your work. Part of it is the circle in which you inhabit, whether it's your circle of friends, collaborators, etc., the companies that you associate with. That if you land a job or a distributing deal with someone
Mhm.
who you do things with or for. So you start with who you are. You start making contacts, and that's again through message boards or groups, fan groups. I belong to the Inkwell Yahoo group. It's a bunch of inkers,
Right.
and you know they're awesome, and they're a great resource for me. You can ask them questions, and these are guys: Tim Townsend, Mark McKenna, Bob Allman. I mean, there's a bunch, and Bob McLeod, my mentor's on there,
Mhm.
and I like to associate with them, as an inker.
Right.
And like I said, they're a great resource. They may kid, but these guys have experience. Sean Parsons on there, Aaron Soud, and all these people bring to the table the things that they have gone through. You have to think about what you want to do and about what, in a way, and this sounds sort of lofty, but what your destiny is going to
Right.
be. What are you going to settle for just doing a web comic, or do you want to do something more? Do you want to work for the big companies, that kind of thing? All those things have to play into what you're doing and into your plan.
Right.
And I'm not saying just doing your web comic, if that's what makes you happy and that's what you want to do, that's great. That's awesome. Pursuing your dream. If that's your dream, then by all means go for it. If it's to work for a bigger company or to have a bigger deal where your work is viewed by a larger audience,
Mhm.
then that's awesome too. Because by being out there, your brand, so to speak, other people look at you, and other people can take hints from you, be inspired by you, or if it doesn't, if you put out, say, a bad sort of image,
Mhm.
then they can be sort of turned off by you,
Right.
whether it's negative, and there are people who are just negative,
Oh yeah.
and sometimes negative people congregate. But do I personally want to read somebody who's always, everybody's against them? They can't get work because no one will hire them,
Right.
or the penciler that they're working with sucks. It's never their fault. The writer, can't put two words together that a subject and a predicate kind of thing. That's part of the whole persona that you do.
Right.
Some people do that constantly, and
So really, building a brand, you gotta be careful who you associate with, because it
right.
reflects upon them.
Well, you also had to remember that the comics industry
Yes.
is fairly incestuous. I mean, we talk. We talk to each other.
Yes.
We know who's out there putting out garbage
Right.
and who's out there putting out something great.
Right. Right.
So, once you get branded as either the guy that puts out garbage or, as Bill was saying, the guy that complains about everything and tries to slough off your mistakes onto someone else,
Right.
then, you just shot yourself in the foot professionally.
Yeah.
Because other people will hear about you before they even meet you.
Right. It's sort of funny because you can get that happen to you and you don't even know it. Because
Right.
I remember a few years ago I was doing shows with a friend of mine, Aaron, and we went to one of them parties after the show, and the guys who was hosting the party was a little studio from Cincinnati area, and they pulled Aaron off the side and says, "What are you doing hanging with the devil?" And Aaron's like, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Bob, the devil." And Aaron's go, "What are you guys talking about?" Well, it reflected from about 10 years earlier that we were really set on building our studio, and we had our core group, and we really wasn't opening the door up to just anybody that walked in. We were really careful about who we invited and what happened and stuff. And we weren't being rude, but it was just like it wasn't an open door policy. In their little studio, they had an open door policy. People came, people went. They hardly produced anything. But yet,
Right.
I was represented as the devil. Well, later on that night, we all drank and we had a good time. And I guess they liked hanging with the devil too.
The devil
Yeah.
buys drinks.
Yeah. But then it was just funny because I had no clue these guys looked at me that way at all.
Yeah.
And by the end of the weekend, we're all cool and they were all happy and everything. But it's just, it's amazing how some of that stuff can be reflected upon you. So yeah, you have to be careful, but you can't always control how people see you and how it reflects you. All you can do is keep your ears open. I used to, at one point in time, I says, I don't care. This is who I am. I really don't care how people feel. You know what? That sort of reflected on Blue Line a little bit. So I do care now. I try to keep my ears open. You can't make everybody happy. There's no way. But you can make sure that there's no false information out there. Or do your best to fix that. Branding. Yeah. Wow. There's a billion directions you can go. I agree with Bill, though. You always start small. You look at nowadays, branding is probably like totally different than it was just 5 years ago. Because you do have the social medias. There are so many shows out there. Just 5 years ago, there wasn't this many shows. There's the anime shows, the more animal shows, the comic conventions themselves. So you can really work on your branding at these shows. It's just there's so many ways you can build it. I think the social medias, the DeviantArts, all those are very important to building. And the social medias, I haven't been involved in the sketch/Blue Line boards that much over at Comic Related. I will be coming now that my time is getting a little more freer. I will become more involved over there. So, and that's just part of those guys know what I got going on. As we rebuild Skystorm, as we start launching the new projects, just starting to work a little bit and share with them what they're sharing with us now. So there's a lot of areas that you can work on your brand. A lot of people would think, well, that's pretty arrogant, especially people outside of this industry, family members or whatever. But it's important you think of yourself as a entity. You are selling yourself, your brand, to either a customer who will buy your stuff or to a customer who's going to buy your services. And both of those are very important.
Yeah, it's kind of a necessary evil, and it's really almost a retail mindset that you have to be, and Bill and I both worked, worked in the retail arts,
Yeah.
shall we say, for many, many years.
I just sold mine.
You just sold
Yeah.
yours, but you know, um, you have to put a little bit of a persona on when you deal with the public.
Right.
You can't be your true self because your true self, uh, you know,
Well,
would probably tell somebody
yeah.
off. You have to put on a little bit of a tiny bit of a
Right.
face when you're dealing with the public. But no, yeah, you do have to. You can't be yourself. You need to be the best self you can be when you're dealing with that sort of
Well, I
thing.
think a lot of time it oozes out of you too. Chuck Moore is a great, great idea. Somebody who, what you get with Chuck is Chuck.
Well,
Chuck
yeah,
is
Chuck is one of those
bouncy.
rare
He
cases.
is energetic. He is all over the freaking place. And it's
That
fun.
actually is
He
Chuck.
he
Yeah.
is fun. He has re-energized me so much that I have personally made some changes in my career and life to get artistically back in comics. Just being
Right.
around Chuck being one of my friends. I mean, he loves comics. I've told him this. I says, Chuck, you love comics as much as I love comics. I love comics. I love the whole concept of it, and he just energized me to get back out there creatively. But Chuck has
I mean,
built his brand for comic related. I mean, it was great when Chuck
right.
launched his podcast a few years ago. Now they can hear Chuck. They can hear his energy. They can see what he's trying to build over there, comic related. It's just amazing. So there, Chuck was branding. I know, and he's aware of that.
Oh yeah, he's very aware of that. And Chuck is really a special case where that really is Chuck.
Yes.
That's Chuck all day.
Yes.
You know, give him enough coffee, that's Chuck all day and all night.
I can't wait to start touring around with Chuck some more. It's gonna be fun.
Oh yeah, it'll be great. If anybody wanted to like shoot for someone to be like, he would be the perfect
Oh
example
yeah.
because he's always positive about everything. And as you said, he loves comics the way most people love air.
Yes. Yes, he
You
does.
know, I've never met anybody who's as enthusiastic for everything.
Yes.
I mean, it could be something he just heard of 5 minutes ago, and he thinks it's the greatest thing in the world.
hmm
So,
And the thing is, Chuck's honest, and that's and
Chuck is
like you
extremely
said,
honest.
that you've got to build upon your strengths. When you're building a brand,
Right.
I mean, and like I said, when you meet Chuck, you get Chuck. You get comic related. That's what it's
Yep.
about. You sort of, as much as you got to be careful how you are with the public, you got to be honest with the public too. If you enjoy drawing comics and you don't like going out and meet people, you hate people, probably not a good thing for you to go out and do conventions.
Yeah. Stay away from
Um,
the convention.
or
Send someone else.
get a really nice wife
Yeah.
and let her handle the table while you sit there and do sketch commissions. Really. Um,
Actually, yeah, we know. So actually know a
yes,
couple
we
like
do.
that. That the wife is very social.
Yep.
The husband is less social.
Yep.
The other partner in the company is not social at all.
Right.
So the wife really,
I can think of
puts that out
I
there.
can think of several people out there that I know
Yeah.
where the artist and usually the husband is a little
Right.
reserved, a little quiet, and the wife is one man at the table, and that's a great. I mean, if you can build that, that works out great for them.
Oh, heck yeah.
So, but and they're building a brand together.
Hmm.
This isn't just the artist; they're building that brand together. So, I guess branding is wide. You can touch it on many bases. Um, but it's sort of you got to be honest with you, and then if you're branding, you got to produce. Let's talk about that. You got to produce stuff, or there's no brand. If you're colorist, you got to be coloring. If you're sketch, you got to be producing, whether it's podcast, resources, or magazines. So we're
Hmm.
getting our butt in gear on that. We are right now rebranding Blue Line. Blue Line was the originator of the comic pages 20 years ago, and we've had a few competitors step into it. Thing is, these competitors don't care about our market as much as we do, and that's what I believe. I truly believe
Right.
that we love comics. I love comics. And I produce this paper and stick with it because I want to see this industry continue to grow. And that has to come through with Blue Line. And Blue Line helps pay for all the sketch stuff. So that's sort of the sharing the circle thing here. But we're currently working on how can we rebrand Blue Line and get its papers back out and let people know, we're the number one as far as amount of paper shipped. We're number one about the types of qualities of the papers that we print on. Our art stores are geared towards the comic artist and the illustrator. How do we get that out there? So we're currently working on the Blue Line brand and, of course, the Sketch brand. So
yeah. Well, and I also think it's something you touched on that is extremely important with getting the work out. Mm-hmm. Not only just getting your work out, but getting it out consistently.
Yes.
And not really putting yourself out there until you have a bit of a let's call it a backlog.
Right.
Like I'll throw myself under the bus on this one. At one time I was doing a webcomic for Comic Relief.
Mm-hmm.
I had a few ahead, and then I let myself slack off. And it got to the point where I was having to rush them out, and their quality went way downhill, so I just killed the strip.
Right.
Because it was no longer what I wanted it to be. It just sort of became this thing.
Right.
That I felt like I had to do, and the quality of the work showed. That's something you really have to remember, is that if you're going to give yourself a bi-monthly schedule,
mm-hmm.
then by God, you have to stay on that bi-monthly schedule. You can't say, okay, I'm bi-monthly for the first two, and then the third one, maybe that'll come out 3 months from now.
No.
No, you can't do that. It's not fair to the fans.
Right.
Life happens, and people understand that. But I think a lot of, even a lot of the big companies have really found themselves bitten in the behind by the fact that fans are fickle.
Oh, yes.
And they will not wait around indefinitely for you to finish your book.
No, you got to produce.
Kevin Smith is notorious for that.
Yeah.
Just to throw a famous name that'll never hear this under the bus.
Yeah,
he's notorious.
Never know. Maybe Kevin's listening.
Well, it's possible. Yeah. It's possible. If he is, hey, Kevin. But
but yeah, and there's a few of them out there done. I mean, we're right now, I think DC has offered the Teen Titans graphic novel that was started 20 years ago by Perez and Marv Wolfman. Now, a lot of that was because both guys left the company. It was sort of off on the side, but yet it's been procrastinated. But then George finally jumped in and they finished it. Get it produced. I've fallen into that bad sequence and working with artists and with their delays and production, and it doesn't jive. You got to treat it like a job because everything represents you, everything you do.
And maybe that'll be a future podcast thing that we can talk about, is if you're running a studio, how you really need to treat it like a business, and talk about maybe if it comes down to it, letting people go and stuff like that. That may be a useful thing for someone in the future.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I've been in all those situations. So
it's a fact of the industry. Yeah, so it is something that comes up.
Right. It's just something that happens. So I agree. That's a future podcast. We can really discuss running a studio and production and how you keep production on schedule and how you work that around with distribution. So, but pulling back to branding, and like, there's so many areas, and we keep coming back. We want, because and a lot of people go, well, branding, I'm not doing branding. Yes, you are. If you're working in this field, you're somehow, some way building a brand. Whether you're posting on Facebook, not every single thing you do, but you're constantly hitting some little message about some update or something like that. You're getting your name out there, part of the brand. I mean,
the minute you go from being a person to being a person with a product, you're branding.
Oh yeah.
That's basically it. There's really no two ways about it. You are now a brand. You are not just you. You are, well, you're not just Bill Nichols. You're Bill Nichols Comics Mentor. To use a very famous brand that we all know.
Yes.
So,
thank you.
You're welcome.
Well,
and
to add to that and put Bill right up there with Mr. George Lucas, is Celebration. As soon as they announced George Lucas was going to be at this celebration, boom, sold out. I mean, boom. No question. Everybody that cares about Star Wars or anything around Star Wars, hey, it's in Florida and George is going to be there. Boom, sold out. Boom, history. So that's adding that name. His brand is his name and his property with Star Wars. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even that big a Star Wars fan, and I was even considering it.
yeah,
So, you have to remember, I think even if you're a writer, that your branding requires certain things. It requires a name. It can be your real name or a studio name.
right. Pen name.
Yeah, a pen name or, whatever. I mean, like
Hmm.
Skystorm, for example,
Right,
the name of the studio is Skystorm. So
right,
that, we're all part of the studio, but that's the umbrella
right,
we all stand under. So unless you're going to work completely alone forever, you may want to think about stuff like that. You may also want to think about things like logos or things that can visually represent you.
oh yes. Business, something
Yeah,
as simple as business cards. Gotta look
right.
very
Something to
professional.
go on your business card. Yeah,
Yes. Make sure you get all the information on those. That's something we'll discuss down the road.
right. Yeah, that'd be a good one because business cards. Someone we know, and I'm afraid her last name's just left right out of my head, but I believe her first name is Lorraine or Lauren. She put out a
Haynes.
book of Haynes. Thank you. She put out a book a few years ago on the business of comics,
I published that.
and yes, you did, as a matter of fact. And one of the smartest things she had really early in the book was business cards.
Yes.
And ever since then, no matter what I've done, I have business cards.
Right.
Always. That's the first thing I do if I'm doing anything is create a business card. So people just don't realize how important that is because people will forget faces.
Right.
People will sometimes forget the work you handed them.
Hmm.
But if they have that tiny little card in their pocket, it will help trigger a memory.
I agree.
And yeah, now with now that a lot of us have iPhones and iPhones have those card
Uh huh.
readers where it can read business cards, it's not even incumbent on them holding on to the card anymore.
Right.
They can zap it into their phone and have it for the life of their iPhone. So I think it's a little thing, but I think it's kind of one of those things that's so very important that people just let slip by them.
I agree. Business cards are very important, and the information you put on them is very important to make sure you
Right.
clearly state what this business card is representing. Because I've gotten many business cards that says, James John, artist.
Right.
Okay. It's
Artist of what?
yeah.
Yeah.
What does it look like? And was it attached to samples? And yeah. Speaking of branding, this is sort of off subject of comics, but it just hit me. Luke went to put in an application today, and being an 18-year-old, he was just going to go in his tennis shoes, shorts, and t-shirts and go get the application. And it was
Oh, no.
DHL.
Yeah.
Well, of course, he didn't listen to his parents, right? But
Mhm.
his advisor for his police explorers, Matt, he is an advisor. He's a police officer, and
Right.
Matt says when you go pick that up, you will go suit or not dress shirt, tie, and shoes. Then when you return it, you will go in dress shirt, tie, and shoes. You
Right.
represent yourself as you expect to be, as professionally as possible. You do your job and whatever it needs to be done. But that initial representation is very important. That's just like branding.
Mhm.
The first images he put in these people's minds. Yes, I'm young, but I understand I have to dress up and look nice to interview for a job that I'm going to be a warehouser. He's not an
Right.
office job or anything, but Matt very much was put it in his head, and very young because as he moves on through college and gets into police academy, there's things you got to do and realize it represents you, and you are the brand, and you want to be very positive. So yeah, that's sort of off subject, but it's like going to shows. I ain't
Right.
telling everybody wear a suit and tie. I don't do it. I try to wear something more than a t-shirt most of the time. I wear jeans and tennis shoes, so hey, because there's tons of walking at these places,
Right. You got to be comfortable,
Yes, you
but
do. But usually I'll wear a polo shirt or two-button golf, or I wear something, It looks nice, casual business, 'cause I just never know who I'm going to run into at a show or have the opportunity to talk to. Every time I talk to somebody, I'm representing Blue Line or Sketch or Skystorm now. You got to be positive about it. So does you guys
yeah,
too. You guys.
yeah. Well, really, the only time it's I think it'd be acceptable in those instances to wear a T-shirt
Hmm.
is if the T-shirt is also branding
Oh, I agree.
you. Yeah, if it's for your company,
Right.
then the T-shirt is fine. But you're very correct. I mean, I've seen people at shows many times, literally look like they just climbed out of bed.
Hmm.
And actually, a few times I've actually seen people in what I would deem sleepwear come to show, sit behind their table.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I think I'll walk past you
Right.
because, you're not putting out a very good face for me.
Right. They're the ones who need a nice wife standing up at the table
Yeah,
greeting you. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. We got to draw Bill back. Bill.
Well, you guys are on a roll, so just keep going.
Ah, no, no, no.
Kick us off our roll.
Again, if you do show up like that in sleepwear or whatever, then the image that you're putting out there is that you don't have enough respect for the people who are coming up to you, who are your fans or potential fans, to put out a little effort. And yeah, you want to be comfortable and all that, but respect is part of that,
Mhm.
and respect for your brand and the fans that identify your brand. Um, that that's so important.
Right,
So
Yeah, you got to always remember these people are giving you money.
right.
Money they could use for hundreds of other
Or you
things.
give to the table next to you.
Right, or give to the table next
Hmm.
to you. Or, go buy a $6 hamburger at the show or whatever.
$4 ice cream.
But $4 ice cream,
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, it's very important to remember that. And I think that falls back to, and we've hit on this a few times in other podcasts, just the simple fact of acknowledging a fan at your table.
right.
If you look down or look up for a second, kind of grunt at
Hmm.
somebody, that's as much branding as everything else is. You're branding yourself as kind of an ass.
Right,
And, people generally don't wish to talk to people who are an ass.
right.
So,
I tell you what I'm really interested in this coming years. I'll be doing shows with Skystorm with you guys and
mhm,
some of the artists, and then I'm going to be doing some shows with Skystorm, but it's basically going to be Clay's Way, which you guys are welcome, but the family's going to be there, and by
right,
having my wife and my youngest child and my oldest boy, I'm wondering how the meeting, if it's going to bring in more people to the table, is it going to bring in more of the mom and child to the table? It's going to be interesting, and I'll report back how it works out. But I'm really interested in what the dynamics are going to be and the difference is going to be by these two different types of setup. The one will have the Race Danger, Blood and Roses, Skystorm
mhm,
type banners behind us, and what we're really pushing towards the comic market. And we'll have some Clay's Way stuff there too. But the other setup would be probably just some Clay's Way artwork and stuff, and just the comic book stuff always there, but then really pushing the Clay's Way because that'd be the audience. And I'm really interested on building the brand as who we can draw to the table because of different people behind the table.
right. I think your wife is really going to be the key to
Well,
that.
she's not a big talker until she's not one to
Yeah,
pull you into the table. But boy, if you
right.
want to start talking about learning disabilities, ADHD, or whatever, oh my goodness, she will talk your arm off.
Well, I think
So,
just physically having her there
right.
is really going to help. I mean, just seeing three guys behind a
Uh-huh.
table, even three guys of different ages like
Hmm.
that, is still kind of that's kind of typical
Right.
for a comic show. But seeing a woman sit behind the table that's not a creator or not anything like that, but it's clearly a family.
Right.
That that's going to put a certain thing in people's mind. They're going, oh, okay, this is a family situation.
Right.
I'm a family person, so
The,
maybe I'll go check this out. They'll know that they're not coming over to the table, and they'll see, half naked women,
right.
comics, and,
Oh.
stuff like that, or gory violence,
Mhm.
There's a family there, so it's probably a family product.
Right. The cool thing is Luke, who's really excited about doing the Claysway setups because his disability and ADHD and struggling through school,
Right.
he wants to share that with kids and parents. And it's I'm sort of proud of him that he wants to do that. So he's really looking forward to doing the shows. He's done comic shows. You guys been around him for years, so he's a
Yeah.
seasoned pro as far as setup, running shows. He's worked for Blue Line for so long, but I see a light in his eyes when he starts talking about the Claysway stuff and the
Right.
display. So
Good.
it's going to be fun watching this. I'm really excited to get the strip launched and get our first collections together in a few months and really see what can happen with that. And it's like I'm building a brand for that book, but I'm also merchandising. So it's going to
Right.
be interesting.
Well, it's such a personal story,
Yes,
that
the Claysway is
that
our family.
yeah. So his comfort with a normal comic show will not necessarily play out the same with this, but I think he'll find kind of a renewed interest in it with it being such a personal story.
Right.
Because I really noticed that people who are doing stories that really mean something to them
Hmm.
are so much more engaging when you're talking to them about the product than it's someone who just came up with this idea for, this guy in a funny suit that jumps off buildings.
As long as it's written well and drawn well, that'd do pretty well too. But yeah, I know what you
Yeah,
mean.
yeah,
And then the cool
yeah.
thing, what I'm looking for is Claysway is a different type of shows that I can maybe reach out to
Hmm.
and drag comics into school settings, library settings, family type meetings and stuff. Maybe some ADHD association stuff, dyslexia setups. I'm really interested in being
Yeah.
able to pull our comics into those type of situations and see. I know Paul Sizer has done, and I know this is sort of off branding, but it's not because anytime you can outreach is good. Paul Sizer has done some library shows and with Little White Mouse and a few of his books. He's done very
Uh-huh.
well at those shows because usually comic book creators don't attend them, especially personally. And so I'm sort of excited with Claysway and how we can reach out with that. And they're going to be pretty fun. It's going to be pretty funny. From this ground up, we're just building a brand with that. So we'll keep people updated through Sketch and hear how that brand's going.
So many things have conventions now. I mean, we in our own narrow-mindedness think that comic conventions are the end all and be all, but a lot of a lot of things, a lot of groups have a
Oh,
convention.
yeah.
So there's probably a lot of avenues that you may have previously never considered that you know
Right.
can be open to you now because this is such a kind of far-reaching story.
Right. Well, it's just something that I'm getting ready to make a post on Claysway about is that Katie received her form to go to the Dyslexia Association conference.
Wow.
And I don't think she's going to go, but she's a member. I was thinking, wow, in a year, maybe we'll be set up at the conference with
Right.
Claysway, Try-
Yeah, that'd be
trying
awesome.
to build that readership, trying to share what we have, trying to share our resources. And so, yeah, that kind of things are starting to click with me in some areas that we can outreach. And with this certain project, hopefully we can reach new readers, and that's what's really going to help us all. But here we are, we're gearing off away from branding, sort of. But
Yeah, it's close to branding because it is branding of a very specific type. So,
right,
Yeah, but you're showing the path that it could take.
right.
yeah,
So
Indeed.
it is important.
right. So I think ourselves, we're getting ready to launch Skystorm. We're getting ready to launch some new properties. The three of us have been talking about, along with some web strips, properties. We're going to have a lot of information about branding in the coming months. So
Yep.
I think we will constantly be coming back and touching base with it, updating, the listeners to what we're doing that's right. And the good thing with Sketch was we've also always shared what we've done that was wrong too, So yeah, we'll be sharing a lot of information. But guys, we've really nailed branding pretty well today.
I think so.
Um,
And
yes, go ahead.
keep an eye on the website always. Well, really, there's 3 places you should keep an eye on. Of course, the podcast.
Yes.
Check it out every week. Make sure that you go over to sketchmagazine.net and check out what's going on over there. And of course, you can link to the podcast from there, and you can also link to the other endeavors of Blue Line Pro and Skystorm Studios from there.
Right.
Then I need to invite you to come over to the forums.
Yes.
On Comic Related. We have a very strong forum with a very tight group of people, but we always welcome new people over there. And we have slowly been getting some new blood, and we would like to see a lot more come over to the forums.
One thing I like about our forums, John, and Bill sort of started these over at Afterburn Media, was that they're such positive guys.
Yes,
I can't say enough. So many of these boards, people say, I ain't going on these boards. All they want to do is promote their stuff, and your stuff's not any good. Da da da. These guys play together. They work together. They're constantly pushing each other. It's a great place. I'm looking forward to diving back in with them. I miss hanging out with them on the board. So.
Yeah, we've never had a bit of problem with them, and I can tell you as one of the partners in Comic Related that we don't allow people to bash other people on any of the forums.
Right.
That gets nipped right away. So you never have to worry about being bashed or being spoken negatively to or of in any of the forums.
Right.
And then lastly, I need to invite everyone to come over to the Sketch blog, also on Comic Related every week. Not only a variety of how-to videos, but as things begin to progress more within the studio and the magazine and the podcast and with Clay's Way and with our eventual tutorial videos that we have planned, all that will be represented on the Sketch blog as well. So you've got several places that you can find stuff, and luckily and thankfully they all co-link.
Yes.
You can get to any one from any other spot. So check them out. And then I need to turn it over to Mr. Nichols so he can plug his own site.
Before you do.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just noticing on the Sketch blogs, a couple new posts. One is comic book merchandising.
Oh, yeah, that's true, yeah.
And it says something about Todd McFarlane, artist, toy company founder.
Well, yeah, we were discussing this last week. We were discussing what the subject was going to be last week. So I was thinking about merchandising and things like that. Through my search, I found an episode of a show that was on the Sci-Fi Channel many years ago when the Sci-Fi Channel first started. It was called the Anti-Gravity Room. It was a show completely dedicated to comics.
Wow.
Absolutely loved that. Yeah, I loved that show, and it just sort of disappeared. So it's really old information, but it's still very cool, and it tells all about merchandising. And the first little tidbit is about Todd McFarlane and McFarlane Toys and all that. The second bit, I think, was about Neil Gaiman. I believe that's a page from Death to High Cost of Living.
Right.
Stuck there. And then I think that next video is they're
Bill
talking to Billy Tucci. Yeah, he's talking to the Asian guy next to him is named Phil, and he was one of the guys on the show. So yeah, check those out. Like I said, it's old information. It's many years ago, but I really thought it was really good, and it really was an intelligent conversation about how to merchandise. Then the next day, or Tuesday, August 24th day, I came across this thing of Steve Rude, and I thought of Bill, because as I put in the thing, there are very few things that Bill gets particularly fanboyish about.
Yeah.
But Steve Rude is one of those things.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I actually didn't know that Steve Rude stopped doing comics altogether and switched over to fine art. This first video is him talking about that a little bit. And then the second is a trailer of a documentary that they had recently done. Now, have not been able to find that documentary yet, but
Cool.
it's a nice little tidbit of his life. Apparently, he's a fairly complicated dude. You know, there's more going on in his life than people would think. I think there are some issues that he
Well,
may have had to deal with
I
as the
think
years went on.
it's pretty open that he has depression, right, Bill?
Right.
Yeah.
It seems like I've read that.
Yeah, I've read it
so.
in several places.
Yeah.
And didn't you just recently find out, Bill, that they have something maybe going on with Dark Horse with the Moth?
Yeah, if they can work that out, I haven't heard an update yet, but I guess it's 8-page installments, and I think it's Dark Horse Presents.
Okay.
Something like that.
Great. There's a chance, and John can come back, that we might be starting a second series of podcasts with Sketch, which would be interviews, and where we would talk to an artist and ask them how they got into this industry, what did they use, a lot like the interviews that we do in Sketch. And we are speaking with Steve Root about possibly doing one of those. Is that correct, Bill?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
Janelle set that up for me.
And Janelle is his wife. So,
Right.
So yeah, we'll update the listeners.
Yeah, and you cut out there for a minute, so I didn't catch exactly what you had just said. But one of the recent series that I absolutely loved was Agents of Atlas.
Mm-hmm.
The more recent book being X-Men Forever, that the artist Dan
Panosian.
Thank you, Panosian. I knew I was going to butcher his name, but anyway, I'm absolutely in love and in awe of his work. I came across this video where he's talking about his own work, how he got into comics, to go along with what you were just saying. Mm-hmm. And he also has some fairly interesting ideas on the future of comics, mainly in the digital realm.
Right.
So, I encourage people to go check that out. Then prior to that, I try to mix things up every now and then because I don't want people to think that Sketch Magazine is so narrow-minded into our comics bend that we don't see other things or that other things don't appeal to us. So, I like to throw little things in that every now and then. So I threw in a little thing on doing a female caricature in a very cartoony style. And then I came across this group of educational videos that they did for middle schools where they talked to people who have real-world jobs. Mm-hmm. Well, this one person in question here is an illustrator. He happens to illustrate children's books, but he talks about his process. There are definite parallels with what many comics artists go through. So it's not specifically a comics thing, right, but still very interesting. And then of course, kind of one of the people that revitalized comics, Dave Gibbons. Oh, yeah. Every chance I get to put something up with him in it, I like to do that. So I came across a newer video of him talking about Watchmen, and he's at a convention called Unicon. Mm-hmm. It's apparently the first year for this convention. So that's pretty interesting. And then sadly, they couldn't shift the camera over so we could see what he was drawing.
Right.
But what he's saying is so great that I still wanted to do it. So if you could stand looking at Terry Moore for several videos, or if not, just close your eyes, but listen to what he has to say because he's giving out some great information.
Terry's great.
Terry is really a great guy, and one of the people, I get a little fanboyish about because I was such a big fan of Strangers in Paradise. I'm a fan of Echo, so yeah, Terry's really one of those people that I kind of stand in awe of. So I think that catches us up for this week.
Yes, it does. And Bill, we are working on starting a new art contest over on the boards. Mm-hmm. Okay. And maybe we'll have something in place next week.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we're working out the
details.
the prize or the details. Yeah, what the subject matter, all that.
Cool. So we can update them.
Sharpen your pencils.
Sharpen your pencils, or inking. Maybe we'll do both. As Danny Mickey
Right.
says, give inking a little love, right?
That's right.
ICOM or whatever it is.
I guess that's it, guys.
Not yet.
Oh, what did we
Not
forget?
yet. We skipped over Mr. Nichols.
Well, before I do that, I will mention that as of this week, on the forum sketch podcast, each podcast has its own section. So now you can go, as you listen to a podcast, you can go to the comic related forum to the sketch podcast section and comment on that episode. If you like it, don't like it, have questions about it.
Slam Bob because he says self-publishing is dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Thanks, Bill.
Yep.
But yeah, you can if you have suggestions, all that stuff. It's very interactive. We check it. Yeah, like I said, there is a good community there, and it really is a community. It says so at the top, and that isn't just a name. It isn't just a brand. It's more than that. It is a brand, but it is the persona of that board that it is a community and people come together, and that's one of the things I really like about it. Because it is not only sort of self-supporting with each creator, but they are supportive of each other, and that I really will push that board there on that because, like I said, it's a very positive thing, and being the comics mentor that I am, I'm all for the positive and getting things that are forward-moving, and that's one of them to me. I mean, there are plenty of other boards out there, and they're great in their own ways and on different things, but comic related is where I hang out. So
cool.
I wanted to say we kind of adopt people. It's kind of this running gag that we call everybody that's associated with comic related family.
Yes.
And the extended family, because we sort of adopt people after a while, and it's really this, becoming this rather large extended family.
Well, Chuck always says, we will rise or fall together.
Exactly.
I think that sort of goes along with that. We are just one big family.
Yep. And before we completely cut off, I need to invite people while they're waiting for this podcast to go up, or actually they will have heard that already, so that doesn't work. The magic of podcasting. But anyway, I will invite people, if they haven't yet, to go over to Comic Related and listen to the Related Recap 2-Night Team with Laura Innes.
Laura's great.
Absolutely adore Laura. One of the best people in comics right now. A great person, and her book is fabulous. She deserves 1,000,000 times more success than she's already had. And I also invite people to listen to the Zone 4 that will hit on this upcoming Friday, the 27th, and that is going to be on superhero weaknesses.
Ooh.
The good, the bad, the lame, and the ugly.
Right. Sounds interesting.
So check that out.
Laura's, her website's thedreamer.com, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Check it out. It's a wonderful.
And you can read her entire story there.
Yeah. Luke, he had just told me he had listened to Chuck's podcast, and on my time when he's supposed to be working for me, sat there and read the first chapter of Laura's book, and
Nice.
really enjoyed it. So yeah, it's out there, and she's wonderful. I've known her since she was in high school, and she's a great person.
Yeah, block out some time because there's a lot of it, because she's well into the book now.
Oh yes.
So if you plan to read it all in one sitting, get a comfy chair and have a drink with you, because it'll take a while.
Very enjoyable. So you can find John where?
You can find me mostly at comicrelated.com, on the sketch forum and the sketch blog within comicrelated.com, and of course at sketchmagazine.net.
Awesome. Bill?
You can find me on comicsmentor.com, and I post things about some personal growth issues, and I've said before that a lot of the posts that I make on the encouraging things or kick you in the behind kind of things start with me. It's what I think I need to hear that day, and usually it is get off your behind and
Right.
get things going.
Right.
So I've had, or as people talk to me too and relate things to me, then I sort of relate it back. It makes me look at my own life kind of thing. And this week has been more personal, I guess, but it's also, if someone else benefits from that, then that's great. But I also this week have posted a couple of things that I like, such as Funky Winker Bean and Calvin and Hobbes, that kind of thing. And
yeah,
so in doing that, you sort of, your picture of me sort of gets developed a little bit more. But that's where you can find me there or the comic related board.
right.
So
Okay.
I like the one on being haunted. That was really good.
yeah, I mean, I think and when I say haunted, some people automatically assume that it was about ghosts, and it could be that. It can really truly be that, but that's another forum.
Right.
But we all have things in our lives that either we're holding on to, or it could be an idea, or it can be that great American novel that you wanted to do, that kind of thing. And that's what it meant. That's things that are holding us back.
Right.
Basically, the end run of that is to find some way to deal with that or let it go and move forward. And like I said, I want to keep doing. I have a lot of things to work through, so I'll grow with me.
Yeah, sounds great. I always enjoy your posts, Bill. And this is Robert. You can find me. I'm hanging over at BlueLinePro.com, sketchmagazine.net, and the forthcoming will be SkystormStudio.com. It's not up yet. It will be up very soon. I'm very pumped because this week alone, I started a new project. Got the artist secured. I made a post on Facebook about it. I'm pumped. I'm pumped to get back into not only helping creators create comics, but getting back into creating comics. And it's been a while for me because I've been so busy on the business end of life with Blue Line of running stores. Well, now I've sold my store. I've got Blue Line cruising. Still a lot of work cruising. We're getting Sketch in shape. I say by the end of the year, Sketch will be in really good shape. So I'm really pumped working with John and Bill and myself all together again and launching some new properties, starting with clothesway.com hopefully in the next week. And then we'll have some announcements forthcoming. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. Working with some old friends who want to do collections or wrap-ups or new stories on their properties. It's going to be exciting. Exciting for me. We learn a lot when we're out there in the trenches with everybody. So and then we take what we learn and we share with Sketch. And now that we have these podcasts, we have the website along with the magazine, we have more opportunities to share our successes and our failures. So I'm pumped. I'm excited. This is what I want to do. I tell my wife this is my 10-year run because I like to retire in 10 years from Blue Line into a full-time studio. She keeps telling me quit saying that. But that's sort of the goal. So, you're going to see me and hopefully all three of us at a lot of shows next year. I'm going to be everywhere. It's going to be fun. But, yeah, right now I'm mostly over at sketchmagazine.net. I'm jumping back in the communities. Once I get Sketch, I'll put on schedule. I'm not in the communities right now because I can really get distracted over there, and I want to get Sketch really online. So once it's in place, I'll be hanging out over there too. So I think it's been great, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great night, everybody.